Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of BrainScratch Searchlight. I'm John Lorden, and today we're going to be looking into the case of Steven Koecher, and we're starting here on the official Facebook group Find Steven Koecher. This is one of those cases where there's a bit of information out there, but it seems like it's starting to disappear. It did get some big media coverage at one point. It was featured on the investigation discovery show Disappeared. And it got some pretty good news coverage around the time that it happened, but this is a disappearance back from 2009, and coverage has been drying up lately, so I thought it was important to take a look at this case and highlight it here on Searchlight. It was also suggested by a few of you viewers out there, so thank you so much for sending this my way. The Facebook page, we can see that they've done searches as recent as May 2015. And there's a bunch of great photos here for people, so you can get a good sense of what he looks like and what he might look like if you bumped into him in person. They also did a very cool thing of releasing a song that he had written and sung, and just trying to keep awareness. You can see this family's been kind of hard at work just trying to keep awareness around this. However, it seems like they may have feared that the worst has happened, and of course I think after 6 years of looking for someone, you have to consider that fact, but there might be some things in this case where it doesn't necessarily have to be viewed that way, and that's another reason why I wanted to cover this one and really point some things out and hopefully raise some exposure and get all of your feedback as well. So let's take a look. We're stopping at the Charley Project, charleyproject.org. I have to highly recommend you check out this website. They do missing persons profiles. They pull together a lot of information. They always cite their sources at the bottom, and they have a very good complete story here on Steven. And here we see several photographs. Keep in mind these would be at least 6 years old at this point, so he might look a little older in person. Vital statistics at time of disappearance. He's been missing since December 12th, 2009 from St. George, Utah. Classification, they have endangered missing. Date of birth, November 1st, 1979. He was only 30 years old at the time he went missing. Height and weight, 5'10" to 5'11", 180 pounds. Distinguishing characteristics, Caucasian male, blonde hair, blue eyes. Koecher has a surgical scar behind each ear and a series of birthmarks on his abdomen, forming a shape similar to a Nike swoosh. Clothing and jewelry description, hooded sweatshirt, a white dress shirt, blue jeans or Dockers pants, and white sneakers. And let's get into the details of his disappearance here. Koecher was last seen leaving his residence in St. George, Utah on December 12th, 2009. The following day, he spoke to two friends on his cellular phone and said he was in Las Vegas, Nevada. He offered to turn around to cover a church meeting for one of his friends, but his friend said not to bother. He has never been heard from again. Just worth noting, I believe he only lived a few hours away from Las Vegas, so I know for most of us Las Vegas sounds like a destination that is a bit far away, but easily drivable, only I believe 2.5 hour drive for where he was living. On December 14th, Koecher's white 2003 Chevrolet Cavalier was found abandoned in a cul-de-sac in the 2600 block of Savannah Springs Avenue in an upscale residential neighborhood of Henderson, Nevada. Real quick, I just want to jump over to a map that I've been putting together here, and this is the area where his van was found. You can see this is a highly populated area, tons of homes around here, and this is essentially where his van was actually discovered. A video surveillance camera in the area showed him parking the car and leaving it there on December 13th. He walked down the sidewalk, crossed the street, and walked out of the frame. We're actually going to watch the video clip a little bit later. He was alone and didn't appear to be disoriented. It appeared as if he had a destination in mind and had parked in that location for a reason. Koecher's shaving kit, coats, pillows, and blankets were inside the vehicle, as well as Christmas gifts he'd purchased a few days before, but his cellular phone, wallet, passport, and driver's license were missing. His laptop computer and cellular phone charger were left behind at home. His car had half a tank of gas when he left it. Okay, now here's where that map that I'm putting together comes into play. Almost 5 hours after Koecher left his car, his cellular phone signal was picked up at a tower several miles away near Arroyo Grande Boulevard and American Pacific Drive. All right, so let's go back to the map here, and we can see the first point where his cell phone was picked up. Remember, his car is found here, way up here. In driving distance, that's 14 miles. I don't know if he's walking it, he might have been able to shave a couple of miles or so. But once again, this is still within a heavily populated area. You also have to keep in mind this is where the tower is located, and usually the tower will work with about a 3-mile radius. So I'm kind of drawing a circle, very rough estimate of what I think that radius is for that cell phone tower. But he clearly moved, or at least his cell phone clearly moved from the original spot he was at down here. 2 hours following that, the signal was picked up in a subdivision near Sunset Drive and Stephanie Street. So if we go back, that is our next stop here, and we can see that's not too far away. And quite honestly, now that I'm looking at the time frames, theoretically, he could have walked this. 5 hours to cover 14 miles, totally doable. Another 2 hours to cover, this seems like it might be 5, maybe 6 miles. That would actually, typical walking speed, at least for me, is 3 miles per hour. So that would definitely fit that. Early the next morning, someone checked Koecher's voicemail, and the signal was picked up at US 95 and Russell Road. And that's where we get to a third location here. So it certainly seems like at least his cell phone is going on a bit of a journey, and this is smack in the middle of heavily populated area. Right over here is the McCarran International Airport. If you've ever flown to Vegas, you've likely landed there. And this is some serious miles. You know, has to be about 20 miles, maybe a little bit more away from where he parked his car. So the big question, at least in my mind at this point, is he with the cell phone? And with the time frames that are happening here, it's hard to make that determination in either way. But the pattern of movement I'm seeing here, coinciding with the time frames of someone walking, it is possible that he is walking with his cell phone in that area. Now, why would he not park somewhere up here if he was going somewhere up there? I have no idea. Or, of course, if something else has happened to him, or if he's been separated from his cell phone and someone else has taken it. That's all definitely possible. The phone stayed at that location for 2 days before the signal was lost. So that's another key piece of information. The phone gets around here, sits there for 2 days, and I think what likely happened was the battery went dead. It's unclear why Koecher traveled to Nevada. He was originally from Amarillo, Texas, and graduated from Amarillo High School in 1998. He went on to graduate from the University of Utah. He had been living in Salt Lake City, Utah, and working for the online division of the Salt Lake Tribune. He was actually a journalist. But he quit his job and moved to St. George in April of 2009. His family stated he was having trouble finding a job. He had recently worked for a window washing business and may have gone to Las Vegas to seek employment. Koecher was a devout Mormon. He did not drink alcohol or use drugs as per his religious beliefs. There was speculation that Koecher's disappearance was connected to the December 2009 disappearance of 28-year-old Susan Powell, who was last seen in West Valley City, Utah on December 7th. Because Koecher was about the same age as Powell and disappeared from the same state at approximately the same time, investigators looked into the possibility that their disappearances were linked. And when I first heard that and started looking into that information a little bit, it does seem kind of highly coincidental. She did disappear before him, and I believe the rumor was that she might have run away from her family situation. She was married with kids, and maybe he was going to meet up with her. He had served a mission in Brazil, so that's part of the rumors that maybe they were running off to Brazil together. As a matter of fact, I looked into the Wikipedia on her disappearance, and he even pops up in here. In early 2010, the website SusanPowell.org was established, described as the official website of Susan Powell. The site's anonymous entries described Josh as a loving father, that was her husband, and grieving husband who was the subject of a smear campaign by members of Susan's family, his sister Jennifer Graves, and the LDS Church to which Josh and Susan belonged. Additional pages on the site suggest that Susan's disappearance might be connected to the disappearance of Utahan Steven Koecher, an erstwhile Salt Lake Tribune contributor who vanished the same week as Susan, and that Susan and Koecher had perhaps run off to Brazil together. According to Salt Lake City News Resources, the website was, quote, widely believed to be written by Josh and his father. And especially in hindsight, that might be true. Some interesting turns have happened in the Susan Powell case, the first of which is Josh's father, her father-in-law, apparently was in love with her and wrote about this in journals that were discovered, took, I think they said, thousands of pictures of her, and they found all that. He was also taking pictures of young children. So he wound up serving, I believe, 30 months in prison for all of that. Josh actually wound up committing murder-suicide, killing both of their children and himself, and I believe that happened in 2012. So Josh was always considered a suspect in Susan's disappearance. On the day she initially went missing, the whole family was actually missing, her husband and the kids, and police entered the home trying to find them, and they found 2 fans blowing on a wet spot in the carpet. Their later investigation did show, I don't know if it was that wet spot in particular, but they did find her blood in the house. So, you know, looking at how this story all played out, I think it's highly likely that Josh and or his father might have been connected to Susan's disappearance. But that's pretty much where those leads end, and investigators were never able to, at least according to the Charley Project, investigators were never able to connect Susan to Koecher. So Koecher's parents stated there is no indication that he committed suicide or planned to walk out of his life, and authorities can't find any evidence of foul play either. He was having financial problems at the time of his disappearance due to his unemployment, but his loved ones don't know what could have caused him to vanish. His father died in February 2011, suddenly, but apparently of natural causes. Both Utah and Nevada police are investigating his disappearance, which remains unsolved. I know the family doesn't want to consider that he might have disappeared of his own volition, but perhaps if he was looking to, I don't know, take a bus out of Vegas, he is certainly going towards I-515 out here. I don't know. This path just really has my brain working. So they did conduct numerous searches in the desert. I did find mention from the desertnews.com on July 11th, 2010. That was a year after. Here's a photo of his aunt and uncle riding a bus to be part of a search. And as a matter of fact, the most recent search, this is from stgeorgeutah.com. The St. George News reports that nearly 6 years after 30-year-old St. George resident Steven Koecher mysteriously disappeared from an area of Henderson, Nevada, never to be heard again by his family and friends, a Las Vegas search and rescue team is renewing the search for him this weekend. And if we jump down, we can get a little more detail here. David Cummings is part of Red Rock Search and Rescue, which I just wanted to give a shout out for. You know, I always look for the silver lining in these stories, and this is a pretty amazing organization. They're a nonprofit organization made up entirely of volunteers. The team's approximately 200 volunteers are professionally trained and provide their services to the public at no charge, operating solely on donations. So very, very cool. And if any of you are looking to give to an organization, check out Red Rock Search and Rescue. I will have a link for them in the description box below. But back to the case. We don't really have any leads on this case per se, Cummings said. We're just looking at it a little differently. Cummings said his team is operating on the belief that Koecher traveled from St. George to the Las Vegas area to do harm to himself, and they are treating their efforts as a search for someone who committed suicide, which involves a different mindset and different probabilities as to where he would have gone and what he would have done. I think it's hard to not look at this case and consider that, and especially now with so many years that have gone by. I mean, isn't it likely that he would have tried to reach out to his family or friends at some point? I really don't know. I haven't been in the mindset of, disappearing in that manner. But if I was going to disappear in that manner, You know, I would probably not take my cell phone. Taking a vehicle that has a tag on it that you're literally identified by probably isn't a good idea. It does raise some questions about his finances. If I was just putting myself in that mindset, if I was going to do something like that, I'd probably pull as much cash as I could and disappear with that and not touch my accounts again, because that's another easy way to be traced. In this case, that's what we have here. Cell phone goes dead 2 days later. Financial transactions all seem to stop. Left his car behind with his personal effects. So it is a big question. Did he go walking off? And can we tell something from the video? So let's watch the clip from the surveillance footage. This is also his brother that's going to be talking in this clip.
Always close by.
In my heart, I don't feel like he's alive anymore. Because if he was, I would think he'd do everything in his power to try to get hold of us.
Still, Steven Koecher wants to know what happened. His brother Steven, last seen in the surveillance video in a Henderson, Nevada neighborhood.
I don't think he would have just left.
That's his brother Dallin, and it just really broke my heart when I saw that footage to see that it seems like he's really given up hope on his brother being alive. And I could totally understand why, but there's something in me that wants to put out, at least in this video, that I do think it's extremely feasible that he is alive, that maybe he wanted to disappear from being a burden on his family, or if he wanted to pull away from his belief structure for some reason, if he didn't want someone or the LDS church to look at him a specific way, if he just wanted to leave all that behind so he could you know, maybe pursue a different lifestyle or something. There's many situations in my head that I could put together that could lead some credence to him actually wanting to disappear. And if the family thinks that he's not capable of suicide or wouldn't do that to himself, but the search teams are looking at this like a suicide and they're also not finding anything, that kind of puts a little tick back in that hope column for me, and I hope it does for his family as well, because it seems like they really need some type of boost in this situation. And I hope that that boost comes in hard material evidence or facts, or possibly finding this missing person. Before we check out on this episode, I want to look at one more video clip. This is his mother. I just want to get her input on what she thinks is going on here.
My working theory is that he thought he was going to something there, like an interview, an opportunity, and something went terribly wrong.
Surveillance video shows Steven's car in the neighborhood. His family is almost sure the man in the video is Steven.
Now that's another thing that's kind of important. I don't think they have a positive identification that the man walking down the street is indeed Steven. But it seems to be strongly suggested, and it's being written about like it is certainly him. But I think we can just put a little bit of a question mark on that. There is some possibility that that's not him walking in that direction. However, we know that the cell phone pings do lead in a direction back significantly north. I think the question is just, is he with that phone on that trip? So that's where I'm leaving it, brain scratchers, and yeah, I'm certainly scratching my brain on this one. But if nothing else, I just hope that we can give a little dose of hope to this situation. People in the Nevada area and the Utah area, please share this. Please get this face back out. I'm going to bring him back up right now. Please make sure that your friends in those areas know this face and are looking for this man. There's just something in me that says this story is not done. The odds of him committing suicide at this point, from how I'm looking at it, are probably equal to the odds of him wanting to disappear and choosing to do it in this way. I don't think that we necessarily can count Steven out, and my heart just really goes out to the family on this. This was really a tough case to look into and cover. If nothing else, I'm very happy that the whole Susan connection got removed from it and didn't muddy up the water of this investigation too much, because that could have taken up a significant amount of resources looking for connections and activity that probably are not there. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below, in the descriptions below. I will have all the links to all the pages I reviewed, probably plus a few more. And thank you so much for joining me on this edition of BrainScratch Searchlight. Can't do it without you guys, so please keep those comments, suggestions coming, and keep sharing this show so that someday we can celebrate helping one of these families reunite with their missing person. Take care, and I'll catch you on the next show on the Geek and Dorks channel.